Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining. We'll be starting in just 2 minutes. Hello, everyone. Welcome to our today's webinar on Go Lean or Go Home, ServiceNow in 4 weeks. I would like to introduce you all to our host for today's session, Brian Browning, Vice President, Consulting Solutions at Artech.
Thank you so much, Rohit, and welcome everybody. Today's session is focused around an actual client project that Artech and Atello delivered to ensure that a large customer was onboarded and operational on the ServiceNow platform in just 4 weeks. Now, this webinar is presented a little differently than most. Instead of a subject matter expert just reading slides, today we'll be using an interview format to lead the discussion. So let's take a look at the agenda. Next slide. So today we'll begin with some introductions, and then we'll start to talk about how important it is to approach this process with a clear sense of what our business case is and what kind of outcomes we're trying to achieve. We'll spend some time talking about the importance of finding and selecting the right partner. We'll do an in-depth analysis of what a lean implementation approach looks like. We'll talk about some enablers for successful implementation, and we'll wrap up with a recap around lessons learned and our next steps. Now, throughout the presentation, we encourage your questions. If you have questions as we're going, please enter them into the chat window. We've got a dedicated session at the very end of our presentation today to make sure that we cover any open questions and answers. Now, I'd like to introduce our subject matter experts. Next slide.
Good afternoon. My name is Eric Marquis, Director of Sales and Solutions for Artech Consulting. I head up our ServiceNow Managed Service Provider, MSP practice, as well as oversee delivery for a couple of our other service domains. Let me give you a little background on Artech. Artech Consulting is a business division of Artech LLC, the largest woman-owned, minority-owned IT staffing and services company in the U.S. We're headquartered in Morristown, New Jersey, 10,000 employees with a global delivery footprint. We're also a leading diversity supplier recognized by the Minority Women-Owned Business Enterprises, and our CEO is actually an advisor to the Women's Business National Council Board. We have a strong corporate social responsibility, supporting many organizations for environmental sustainability. In addition to strategic staffing solutions, Artech Consulting also offers solutions for enterprise monitoring infrastructure management, IT support services, custom application development. We're also a ServiceNow MSP offering full scope of platform hosting, management, and support. We've been supporting clients on ServiceNow for the last 10 years. And part of what we're going to discuss today is our vision and our business case for bringing this in-house and how we made it successful in 4 weeks. I'm joined here today by Christian Nolte from Atello Solutions.
Yeah, appreciate it. Hey guys, my name is Christian Nolte. I have had the fortunate opportunity to be working with ServiceNow since 2011. I actually came on the Winter 11 release. And 3 years ago, co-founded Atello Solutions. I do lead the team here. We are a specialist partner of ServiceNow. What that means is that we resell, implement, and overall just support the platform with our steady state support. And we're excited to share this project with you guys. Next slide. So many of you might have had some exposure with the classic football slide from ServiceNow. This is the latest and greatest. So that is gone. And this is kind of an overall overview of what ServiceNow is capable of. One of our lessons learned from this is to make sure everyone's on the same page. So we're not sure what everyone's exposure is with ServiceNow, but ServiceNow is a platform that has modules and applications built on top of it. The beautiful thing about ServiceNow is it is very powerful and encompassing. That's a double-edged sword. That is why when you are implementing ServiceNow, you really should have a partner like ourselves help you through the process. During this project, we really focused just around IT workflows, as well as the integration. We did integrate SolarWinds into ServiceNow. So your journey might start in a different place, but a lot of these methodologies that we're going to share through this can be applied to wherever you start, whether that's the customer workflows, whether that's employee workflows, HR, but this is to drive your roadmap, this slide, and keep it visible around your enterprise so you know where you can take the platform. Let's move on to the next slide.
Thank you, Christian. I really appreciate your take on that, because I think it helps to frame up sort of the starting point of our journey here, right? Talking about defining clear business cases and developing an outcome focus. So Eric, what are some of the main drivers for building a business case to build around the ServiceNow platform?
Well, Brian, the main drivers really were the business strategy and client opportunity. And not to forget the vision. We had a vision of what we could do with the ServiceNow platform, being a premier service provider, as well as a razor focus in terms of what we needed to do to support a large enterprise client that we were going to provide enterprise monitoring and management services for. So those were some of the main drivers that really led us into developing the business case, where we had a vision in terms of where we wanted to be in the future. We started to identify what those outcomes looked like, right? So that we could start to bring together, what we were going to need from a road mapping standpoint, and more importantly, how we were going to be able to, look at incrementally, building out and supporting our MSP practice. From a client opportunity standpoint, we were able to kind of realize the vision, but lead with the need. So really the client opportunity was the main driver behind that, and really is what kind of helped to shape the business case and the requirements that were going to be necessary to get us up on the platform in 4 weeks.
Do you think that the business case for ServiceNow then puts you on a path for the implementation?
Oh, most certainly. The business case really helped to establish at least the outcomes we had for this project and the requirements, and provided more focus, to be quite honest. ServiceNow can really be an overwhelming platform, and we've heard that from many clients, many of our service management clients and beyond. And the fact that it's so diverse, it's so comprehensive in terms of its depth and breadth. I think, as Christian said on the previous slide, there's always going to be a starting point, and that's really where you need to plan for and identify is what is that starting point? What are you looking to achieve? What business problems are you looking to solve, right? And we were able to do that by really focusing on the first client, to be quite honest. I mean, that really played into the overall vision, strategy, and plan, but at least that helped us get us started. By identifying the outcomes we wanted to achieve around that first client, it allowed us to be much more lean and deliberate with how we rolled this out. And then we knew that, hey, we didn't have to boil the ocean all at one time, right? We could start to lay that foundation brick by brick, right? We could start to, realize our vision and our strategy over time, but really focus on that one client. And we established our roadmap and aligned it to our business strategy, but this implementation really focused on what we needed to support our first client, while laying the foundation for our MSP practice.
So in this particular case, as I understand it, you were trying to basically build a network operating center that would provide enterprise class monitoring capabilities. And the idea behind this would be that you would be doing this on behalf of multiple customers. So when you talk about defining the business goals, what you're saying is it's important to understand that the long-term goal was to support multiple customers, while at the same time trying to stay focused on that first customer that was being onboarded. So Christian, based on that, how did you support Artech in helping to shape that case?
Yeah, so this was a long discussion we've had. Eric and I were introduced over a year ago by somebody that had trusted our services and referred us to that, put us together. And from that initial meeting, we knew that, we wanted to help them build out an MSP practice at Artech and help Eric drive that home. So our initial meetings were around, what offerings do we want to have? Atello has a lot of experience in the MSP space. And so what we've seen out there, what we would think is competitive in the market and what's going to fit their business. What business offerings, like you said, what business offerings do you want to give to your clients? And use ServiceNow to facilitate having that single platform to service many clients at once. So, we engaged early and often. I'd recommend you do the same with your selective partner, or if you haven't selected a partner, engage your ServiceNow rep. They're very helpful. They want you to succeed because, our success is your success and vice versa. So engage early and often, I would definitely recommend. And that's what we did here. So, there's a bright future ahead.
That's a great segue into our next slide. So Rohit, if you wouldn't mind hitting the next slide real quick, we'll talk about selecting the right partner. Let me go back to Eric here. So clearly, selecting the right partner is critical for success. So what was it about Atello that made it seem like a good choice to move forward with? What are some of the key considerations that you felt helped to position the partnership between Atello and Artech so that you could ultimately deliver those solutions for your end customers?
I think Brian alluded, I think Christian alluded to it earlier, really, and that's, we had, the opportunity to meet, I think it's almost 2 years ago now, Christian, and we worked on several opportunities together previously. So we really had a good working relationship that laid the groundwork for our success, I would say. And one of the things that drew me to Atello originally was just, their personalized approach, their ability to be flexible and adaptable, and to really focus on, what the client needs, versus trying to put it in trying to time box it or put it into an arbitrary, one size fits all, and, part of really what, some of the other really, considerations for selecting the right partner were really that, we wanted a partner that understood our business and to work within our timelines, that could be flexible and adaptable, as I just mentioned, to our needs, while focusing on the outcomes that they know we needed to achieve to stand up the foundation of our MSP practice, and especially bring on our first client. I mean, the client was really the driver behind, really developing that lean implementation, identifying and really developing what that looks like and what it needed to be in order for us to be able to achieve this in 4 weeks. And I've touched on just, a partnership that was more personalized. It's the foundation of what we provide to our clients today through Artech, and it really is the expectation that we expect in the partners that we work with. When Atello, having worked with, other large MSPs, as Christian mentioned earlier, they understood this space, they understood the MSPs, they had experience, they understood domain separation. That was a major consideration in our selection process outside of the relationship that we already established. And a large partner that had deep experience with the core of ServiceNow and beyond. It's one of the things that Atello excels at, is they really, really understand IT service management, but you don't really necessarily need to paint them only in that corner, because they have so much depth and breadth of experience beyond that they were really able to accelerate our time to value by understanding what our requirements are, the timelines, what we were looking to accomplish, and really develop a tailored plan that enabled us to be able to get there. And I would say, working with another partner and me, there were opportunities to work with larger partners and maybe even more established partners, but I'll tell you, I don't think anybody would have been as flexible and adaptable, as Atello in this case. And just from my experience in the past, we've tried to stand up MSPs through other organizations, and we worked with other partners. And, they understood what we wanted to do today, but they weren't aligned to where we were going in the future. And as a result, it was never really structured properly. And that created considerable constraints and challenges as we look to scale that. Working with Atello, they were able to help set up that structure and enable us to be able to not only just think about the first client today, but focus on the future. Again, lead with the need, but have a vision for the future.
Perfect. Let's go to the next slide. So, Christian, Eric made a great point about the fact that you had to focus on getting something done in the real short-term focus while also following and establishing a roadmap that allowed for additional clients to be brought into similar services in the future. So knowing that you've done many implementations, what would you say made this particular build any different? What does a lean implementation look like? Is there really a solution that's a one-size-fits-all?
Yeah, no, I appreciate you bringing that up, and Eric, thank you for the praise. It's been a good partnership. Like you said, it's not a one-size-fits-all. You really have to meet with your client, and as attendees, as you progress down the ServiceNow path, I really highly encourage you to meet with your partner and go over your growth plan. What's that roadmap look like, not only from a platform perspective, but also your team perspective, right? We have clients where they don't want to have an internal team. They want their own instance, and we'll handle the program management of it. But with Artech, they're standing up their MSP instance. They want to grow their team. We do the implementation. We help enable their team, and as they grow into it, we take a lesser of a role, and they take a bigger role. And that's what's going to be that success for them, and we'll help them get there. Every client has different motives to why they're going with ServiceNow. There are some common ones, but across all, there are some key cornerstones to success. What we had with Artech is there was a good knowledge around the platform and leadership. We had a clear business case. Many times what will happen is you draw too many people into ServiceNow. A lot of things are packaged into that phase one approach, and it dilutes the clear vision for what that business outcome we're driving to. So don't be afraid to say yes, but say yes, but later, right? Hey, that's a phase two. That's not critical today. We love your enthusiasm for the platform. There's a reason ServiceNow is so prolific in the business community. But that's not why we're bringing ServiceNow on. We established that clear vision. We clearly defined outcomes and goals, and we had commitment to the plan. I can't tell you enough what commitment means. There's some red flags that'll pop up on other implementations. A couple right off the top of the head are, not having the engagement and the attendance on our workshops. People say they're going to be there. Something pops up. They can't be on workshops. Okay. These workshops, it's 1 to 2 weeks. It needs to be priority, because from there, that defines everything else. Artech had that executive leadership to say, no. Hey, everyone has the autonomy to attend these, and that they need to attend these. And we had great turnaround on that. We had anything that we asked for. It's not just toss it over to your partner and have them get it up. We need to work with different areas of your team, whether that's the AD team, whether that's the securities team, whether that's even your help desk team, right? We need to work with everyone, and we have asks, and there's data that needs to be turned around. Artech was spectacular on turning that around. And then from there, like I said, you're going to have a lot of people that are going to come in. You need to incrementally build. You need to build the roadmap of the future. There's 2 areas where we see ServiceNow fail. One is on the implementation. Again, you don't have clear defined goals. You don't have that laser focus. Everyone's bright-eyed, bushy-tail, wants everything, and you can't do everything in phase one. The second one is people get through phase one and they don't get to phase two. You don't do more with ServiceNow, and ServiceNow just seems like a very high-priced ticketing tool. It's not what ServiceNow is. You need to drive innovation through the platform across the enterprise. So that's where your roadmap is. And then as you bring things on, different teams are going to have different asks. You're going to have enhancement requests. It's a living, breathing platform that coalesce to your organization. So there's always going to be continuous improvement that's going to grow with your organization. So yeah, Brian, thank you for that question. I know that's a quite the in-depth slide, but there's a lot there.
No, that's helpful. And I think one of the things that really struck me about your response is kind of the focus on how important it was to have that buy-in up front, right? I mean, let's be honest, business people simply want results. They know that ServiceNow is a really powerful tool, but they don't know the intricacies. What they say is, hey, I just want X, Y, and Z. How hard is that to do? And by using those introductory educational stakeholder sessions to help them understand, this is a simple ask, this is a more complex ask, and then they can basically assign the levels of business value that should be associated with that. And that helps you, like you said, yes, but later on certain kinds of ideas.
Exactly.
Eric, anything you'd do to expand upon that?
I really support a lot of what Christian said and how he articulated, really, the starting point, as well as, kind of having a vision kind of for the future. And I will say that, we've seen, through my experience working with this platform and supporting our clients, we've seen the same thing. We've seen them make, numerous investments, in the platform, and not really fully understanding what they wanted to get out of it or having a roadmap to get there, right? Maybe only looking at today, or maybe being too narrow focused and not really expanding that viewpoint. So as Christian mentioned, you can start to incrementally build, and further develop, and make it a comprehensive platform across the enterprise. I mean, this is really not a platform that is really it's not a point system. I mean, what you have here is an enterprise cloud platform that's a comprehensive digital workflow platform that can scale the enterprise, combined with advanced artificial intelligence, machine learning, and it really enables you to consolidate, automate, and streamline business process. It's powerful, but you have to have a plan going into it, and especially from a project standpoint. You have to, the narrow focus can be good sometimes as you're getting out of the gate to make sure that you're going to be successful. And there's a lot of those intangibles, Brian, that you were mentioning earlier that are going to be very important to support that as well. But I would say, I definitely concur with Atello and Christian. It was through some of their guidance, and working with us in developing that business case that enabled us to stay focused, to make sure that we had the right things and we were focused in on the right requirements so that we could make this successful.
Have you both found that by focusing on 4-week implementation timelines to demonstrate some value, does that have the effect of both proving that the platform is viable and building momentum for that next step on the roadmap, phase 2, phase 3, phase 4? Has that been the experience that either one of you have seen in the real world?
Yeah, it's 4 weeks that was an aggressive timeline. We were happy to meet the need. We knew there was it was being driven through a contractual and business outcome that needed to happen. And but quick early success, which heck, we had a lot of success in that 4 weeks. So it puts a lot of momentum behind the platform. So yeah, I mean, give yourself an aggressive timeline, have it fit in there. Demand excellence and drive it forward, because having good wins, it's going to give you that momentum to really build this as a strategic platform in your enterprise.
Outstanding. All right, let's go to the next slide then. So Eric and Christian both, I'd really like to get your perspectives from sort of a client vendor standpoint on what you saw as the key enablers for success. Eric, let's start with you.
Well, as you look at the slide here, I mean, although, everything looks generic on the surface, right? I mean, these are all really, key points to what you could say would make any implementation or program successful. But I cannot emphasize the importance of these points enough, and how this enabled, this implementation to be successful. And really that executive sponsorship and stakeholder support is key, and we were able to get that by putting together and articulating the right business case to bring this in, being led by, a large enterprise client, and then supported by a vision for how we were going to build that out incrementally into the future and beyond. There was alignment across the organization, to our strategy, but more importantly, what we initially needed to achieve. We've seen too many failed implementations or unrealized value, where there's a loose buy-in or lack of support. And really, it's just a recipe for disaster when you're stepping into this. If you're not aligned from the top to the bottom, it's just never going to work, and they're never going to see the value. And even when you come up time for renewal, you're never going to be able to, get the buy-in you need, and the attention in terms of the value that this platform can create. So, I mean, stepping into this, executive leadership identified that, and that was identified all the way down through, senior and middle management as well as the individual contributors that really needed to make this successful as well, and the folks on the front line that were going through UAT testing and then working with us behind the scenes. Additionally, I would say that we had a leg up having an established relationship with a key partner, and that in Atello. Their support of our business case and the close collaboration put more skin in the game, quite frankly. And it really felt like we were fully vested in, as a partnership versus, having individual interests. And I would say that's very, very important. There's a million ServiceNow partners out there. So, my recommendation is really take the time to develop the relationship. Let them understand your business. Let them understand your needs, your requirements, your pain points, what you're looking to achieve, and then have them work with you to tailor the solution around those needs. Next, I would say, having skin in the game with Atello, they were able to understand the end game and the outcomes that we were trying to achieve. They know, ultimately they knew the end game and what we wanted, but they also needed we needed to get on first base, and that created the alignment that we needed for success. And finally, really the demonstrated experience and proven methodologies they had, around real agile and lean implementations. I'll be honest, and then the first meeting Christian and I had regarding this platform, I had said 4 weeks, and he's like, we're over the phone, we weren't face to face, and it's like I could just hear a pause, and it's like 4 weeks. And we both knew it was aggressive. We both knew there were going to be trade-offs, and we both knew that there would have to be somewhat of narrow focus. But it was a proven methodology and their ability to be able to execute on that and alignment to a plan and a strategy that helped enable us to be successful. So I would say those are really some of the key enablers to the success of this program.
Christian, anything you'd add?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I'll echo a lot of what you're saying. I've touched on this. We've kind of approached this in an onion approach, right? Driving these points home, because you can't emphasize them enough. Like you said, Eric, a lot of this seems, very, surface level, but when you're kind of in the trenches and you have something to look at, you need to have it written down. You need to have that roadmap. You need to have that North Star guiding you. So, commit to what you're going to do, align to it, and preach it, right? Know that you're going to get that win. And, the quicker you can get it, the better for everyone. That's why we were having these weekly health checks, right? Every week we're reviewing, hey, what was built? What can we push? Review the, make sure we're aligned correctly. Are we ahead of schedule or behind schedule? Communication is key, and just making sure that you're working as a unit, right? Not two separate bodies. And yeah, that team engagement. Our teams work seamlessly together. What we said jump, and they said how high. We got it for you guys, and we said the opposite way. So yeah, I mean, selecting a partner and having that relationship is key.
Fantastic. Let's go to our next slide. So I'm sure having prior experience in both implementing and supporting the ServiceNow platform has served you well. How were you able to take that experience and deliver some key learnings from both this project and others that you've worked on? Yeah,
so Artech we've worked with other MSPs. We support other MSPs. What many people might not know, an MSP in the ServiceNow world is we domain separate their instance, and then there's different instances layered on top of that core instance that are supporting multiple different clients. So Artech had that appetite to be able to run the show themselves. They really wanted to come at this aggressively, and we were just there to facilitate. So one thing that I touched in the beginning when we were going over that ServiceNow slide is something we ran into is we assumed some knowledge in the beginning. Working with Eric a lot, we assumed that his team also came at this with the exposure of ServiceNow that he did. So we might have skipped some things, and some of the more shyer personalities didn't speak up until it was almost too late, and we realized, oh wow, that stakeholder just didn't fully grasp what we were driving at, and we brought them up to speed. And so don't leave anyone behind. Make sure you got the correct people engaged, and especially if you got to engage in smaller groups, and just so everyone knows, hey, what are the capabilities here? What's the business case here? What's phase 2? What's the roadmap moving forward? How are we going to transform on the platform? And again, that rolls right into plan for the future, but focus on today. The future for ServiceNow is bright, right? ServiceNow is a platform. Hey, we're in the infancy, right? We're breaking into the business right now. We have a lot of different business use cases, whether that's supporting your clients through the customer service management, automating a lot of that through different AI technologies we have on the platform, through agent workspace, and there's just a lot happening there, right? It's a bright future to adopt ServiceNow, and you can always grow into it. ServiceNow has 2 releases a year, so we want to make sure that the platform was scalable and supportable as you move forward. So there was a lot there, but Eric, I think what you guys have and what you're building to help a lot of people to come onto the platform is going to be great for the business.
That's a great point. I guess, Eric, now that you're fresh on the heels of the successful first implementation, you clearly have a roadmap for other customers. What would you say is next for Artech and the ServiceNow platform, along with your partnership with Atello?
Our plan was always, to really execute on our strategy and overall plan, and the roadmap that we developed for this as a service provider. We knew coming into this we were going to land and expand, very focused on one client, and then build incrementally to support multiple clients over a period of time. We saw, and Christian mentioned this earlier, we really saw Atello as a partner in helping us to establish that. Client 1 was just the beginning, right? Client 2, 3, and 4 and beyond is really what we are looking to do. And as Christian said, as we ramp up and get more knowledge of the platform and establish, our practice, we really see Atello longer term as more of a strategic partner, and somewhere where a partner that we're able to use, in different areas that have, different subject matter expertise, depth and breadth in terms of different parts of the platform, like human resource management, customer service management. There's so many, as Christian mentioned, there's so many different types of applications that this platform has, and it's so comprehensive that, we're just starting out, to be quite honest, and our focus is really in and around IT service management. We're going to look to expand that to IT operations management, or ITOM, within the next year, and really be able to leverage advanced event management, leveraging predictive intelligence via ServiceNow ITOM into our enterprise monitoring and NOC solutions. And that's really going to give us the ability to proactively identify and automate resolution of issues. Further out, we see this as an opportunity to position the solution as potentially automation as a service. And again, this, first and foremost, ServiceNow is a digital workflow platform that can really help to streamline and automate really virtually any business process that you have, from IT, and beyond the enterprise. But the fact is it's also turning into a major automation platform as well. And our vision really is to leverage and key into that so that we can deliver more automation as a service to our clients, leveraging ServiceNow as a backbone. And those are just some of the things. And we see Atello being a key partner in helping to support that as we move forward.
Fantastic. Let's go to our last slide here, Rohit. So this is the question and answer portion of our webinar session here. Received a number of questions, and again, want to encourage you all to use the chat window if you have some additional questions. I'll go through some of the ones that have been submitted already, but please feel free to submit additional follow-up requests. I also want to point out that both Eric and Christian's contact information is available here on this last slide, both phone numbers and email addresses. I'd encourage you to reach out to both Christian and Eric following our webinar if you have any other follow-up questions or would like to engage in a detailed discussion. Having said that, then let me go ahead and go through some of the questions that we've received throughout the webinar. So the first one's pretty fun. It says, 4 weeks seems fast. Is that realistically what we should expect for our implementation?
Yeah, I can take that one. Short answer, no. but it really depends on what's in your scope and how familiar you're with the platform. We wouldn't recommend 4 weeks, but we would recommend an aggressive timeline. That drives a lot of factors. We've had other clients that they don't really have a timeline to get ServiceNow up, and we're ready to go, and go live keeps getting pushed because internal staff, just doesn't want to switch over, right? It's a hard conversation from a vendor to push them like that. So, again, it's one solution doesn't fit all. We'd love to see everyone 4 weeks. It's a quick win. It's a lot of momentum there. It's a really powerful story to the business. So, that'd be something that we'd have to take offline if you are looking at your implementation. Although if you're going to go the MSP route, through Artech, it could actually be much shorter than 4 weeks. The beautiful thing about an MSP is they kind of built best practices into their platform, and so you can kind of adopt their platform on a domain set instance and be ready up and rolling very quickly.
Picking up on that, maybe Eric, I could ask you a question kind of based on that. The idea that, a pre-created instance is ready to go and it's already configured along best practices seems, at least to me, an outsider, to suggest that you could get up and operational. Is it, in your experience, the diversity of requirements that deviate from best practices, or are they custom requirements that kind of builds the additional timeline in there?
It's customer requirements that build the additional timeline, and that's really the value of the MSP, right? And that's, increasing time to value very, very quickly by already having really these instances already established and having, best in industry features and functionality that are already incorporated into various different packages that we offer today. And that enables clients to get up on the platform quickly, get functional, be able to realize the investment that they're making, and also gives them room to be able to scale, and further mature on the platform for the future. But yeah, I mean, the MSP, it really gives a nice opportunity to somebody that, may not meet the minimum with ServiceNow, small to medium-sized businesses that either, don't have the expertise in-house, or, may not, want to be able to manage it internally. It's a great opportunity to look at Artech in our MSP practice, and that we can manage, we can host it, we can manage it, and we can administer it and support it for you. And then obviously working with Atello as a strategic implementation arm as well. It's really sky's the limit in terms of where we can take you.
Gotcha. So in this scenario, how would you recommend people organize their teams?
Yeah, that is also not a one size fit all. I can tell you what we've seen in different implementations is big teams that it doesn't drive efficiency. We like to keep our team pretty lean. A very experienced lead developer that also has architect capabilities. So they're leading along with an engagement manager who also serves as a project manager. And then for this timeline, I think we brought on 2 devs because it was a 4-week timeline. Sometimes a lot of things are layered in there. You got your business process consultants, you got your engagement manager, project manager, account manager. There's too many voices in the room, too many chefs in the kitchen, as the old adage is, and it can get kind of messy and draw up the timeline. So I'd recommend, if you want a lean implementation, have a lean team, have the key stakeholders, the real people that have the authority to make that decision from a client perspective, and just drive it from there.
Great. Just got a new fresh question in here. It says, we currently use a different platform as an enterprise-wide solution. Realistically speaking, how long does it take usually to switch over? Ballpark, we know that all systems are different, but what are some of the common techniques or tips you can give us around switching from another enterprise-wide solution?
Yeah, education. Really get your people excited about ServiceNow, train them on the capabilities of ServiceNow, and once you have that buy-in and people want to move, it's a lot easier to affect change, right? You have the executive buy-in, then you look at your processes, you got your different process owners, you get their buy-in, and then it really streamlines from there. So again, like you said, it's a big question, because if you have an enterprise strategic tool, maybe somebody you're a big Salesforce shop, maybe you're some other strategic platform that you're trying to move away from, and you've got a lot of different processes on it. Baby steps. If you can't do baby steps and you want to you have to do that big bang, maybe a contractual issue, then again, it's education and engagement.
Are there any automated tools, or do you, or perhaps even Artech, have any intellectual property that helps to automate or speed the migration from one platform to another? For example, in an ITSM context, if I have existing tickets and I don't want to lose the legacy history of those, are there tools or platforms or intellectual property that you've developed internally that helps to automate that migration?
Yeah, I wouldn't say we have any IP. We've got some pre-built integrations, some pre-built dynamic workflows that we have. It's pretty easy to migrate knowledge and tickets from one platform to the next. We'd also have to know what platform you're coming from and what capabilities we have to export.
Very good. So what are some common pitfalls or mistakes people make when they're trying to get onto the ServiceNow platform in your experience?
Yeah, I guess I'll take that one again as well. Eric, sorry, I'm taking up a lot of the airspace here.
Well, good.
Yeah, some of the pitfalls, again, what we talked about earlier is not having that business outcome, right? What are you driving to? Why are you adopting ServiceNow? What is your why? If you don't have your why and you don't have that laser focus, you're going to get sidelined, right? ServiceNow is a great platform, but again, that's a double-edged sword, because you can go in a number of different directions. I mean, we've had people wanting us to build custom applications on it in phase one, and we go, hey man, that's not what we need to do right now. You're coming end of life on whatever, name the tool, and we need to get off that and get your team onto this. So keep that focus, know your why, and again, don't say no, say later, and plan it out into the year roadmap.
I like that line. Don't say no, say later. I'm going to write that down and use that myself. This is a good question. Maybe it goes back to Eric and talking about sort of the MSP model that Artech offers on behalf of ServiceNow. Are there any limitations of ServiceNow products or features that are limited by your MSP implementation, or are you able to provide the full suite of capabilities of the entire platform?
That's a good question, Brian. And I'll say that there are very few limitations, virtually none. And as the MSP model has matured through ServiceNow, they have created a structure that's enabled them to further reduce the amount of limitations. Originally getting on, there were some constraints in terms of just from different communication channels, leveraging chat and other features and functionality. But as Christian mentioned, they come out with 2 releases a year. Through those 2 releases, they're continuing to further develop and build out the platform so that they can, reduce any, add features, functionality, and be able to further reduce any limitations that the platform offers. So I'd say, based on what we've designed through Artech today, there are no limitations. But again, that also comes down to the requirements of the business, right? What you're looking to achieve, how you're looking to use that. Sometimes stepping into this, ServiceNow has best practices already built. And all Artech did was really layer more of the features and the functionality and package that together. But that may not be a one size fits all, and there may be other requirements. So we certainly would dig into those requirements, understand what they are, and then really understand if there's any limitations and constraints that we're working with.
Perfect. What would you say, why do you think there's a perception that ServiceNow is so difficult to implement?
I can take that, and then I'll hand off to Christian. I think we both have very similar views on this, and that I think we touched upon it several times, and that it's just so comprehensive of a platform that it's really understanding your starting point and what you want to get out of it, the why, like Christian mentioned. Having clearly defined goals and outcomes that you want to be able to achieve, and developing a strategy and a plan to be able to support that, being deliberate. I don't think there's enough, or creating, or being too deliberate in some cases and not really seeing beyond that, so you can see how you can, continuously, grow and develop and further mature on the platform. And so, those are some of the reasons why, there's challenges to really, adopting this platform, or, there's a perception that it's overly complex, because it can be as simple or as complex as you want it to be. And if you don't have the right partner and the right team internally developing the right business case, the right strategy, the right plan to support it, making sure you have the right partner to deliver it, then, it doesn't really set you up well for success. I mean, Christian, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah. We have a lot of clients that will come from either homegrown tools, very antiquated tools that they've built some wildly complex process that Dave, built 30 years ago, and you're just making it work, right? We had a client recently that built a process around their scroll wheel. Like if you wanted to scroll in the window, it would shut down the program. So they needed to make sure that they designed a product where they wouldn't have to scroll, so it wouldn't shut down. Look, that your process might be broken, and we don't want to put broken processes into ServiceNow. ServiceNow has a lot of best practices in it. We like to say that we want to build through a mission. So let's simplify and make sure that works for you. Simpler is definitely better, and go from there. But some people, the perception that ServiceNow is difficult to implement is because ServiceNow lets you do whatever you want to do, but doesn't mean you should be doing that. So as an implementation partner, we should be showing you the best way to achieve your ends, what that business case is, what the why is. Hey, these are the processes we recommend, and if you want us to do something different, we're going to challenge you on that, because we want to make sure that it's both the best for your business, it's a supportable solution, and again, it's not difficult to implement. We want it to be a enjoyable experience and something that's going to better your organization.
Fantastic. All right, so let me make one final request for any additional questions for either Eric or for Christian. If there's no other questions, then I'll simply wrap up our webinar, and thank you for your time and attention today. Again, please feel free to reach out to either Eric or Christian. You see their contact information there, and we can make copies of this webinar presentation available to you after our session today. I don't see any other questions, so we'll go ahead and wrap up. Thank you very much for all of your time and your attention. We look forward to supporting you in any discussions around the ServiceNow platform. Rohit?
Thanks, everyone.